Former Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is facing a sedition case alone now. This as the police declared his party members innocent. The Lahore police recently dropped sedition case against 41 senior PML-N leaders, including Nawaz Sharif's daughter Maryam Nawaz. However, Sharif continues to face the heat even after Prime Minister Imran Khan distanced himself from the case. Interestingly, the FIR was lodged on the complaint of a local activist affiliated to Khan's party, the PTI. The complainant alleged that Sharif delivered hateful speeches against Pakistan while addressing the opposition's multi-party conference and his party's Central Working Committee and Central Executive Committee. The former Pakistani Prime Minister's party members were also accused of endorsing his views. Meanwhile, trouble continues to mount for Sharif, who has been summoned by the Islamabad High Court in a graft case. According to a report, Sharif has been asked to appear before the court by November 24th. He is currently undergoing medical treatment in London. And now for more on this, senior journalist Ahmed Shaheen is joining us live from Lahore. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, sedition charges against all others have been dropped except for Nawaz Sharif, as you of course know. What do you make of this?
I think the government is trying to create a less embarrassing situation, and what it's ultimately creating is an even more embarrassing situation for itself. First, it was distancing itself from these sedition charges, just like it has been distancing itself from all the other actions taken against the opposition politicians, but then at times going out and claiming that it is the government itself that is doing it. So they're playing both the cards, saying it's not us who's doing it, but we get all the credit because we are doing it. It's the same thing over here when the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the head of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, is saying it's not us doing it, and it's a ridiculous thing to do. And at the same time, it comes out that it's one of their activists who's actually contested from this political party as well. It's one of their own people who are doing it, who are doing the sedition charges against Nawaz Sharif and for dozens of other politicians. And the more ridiculous thing is that if you know how the police system in Pakistan works, it's very difficult to even get an FIR registered of theft, and it's so easy for somebody belonging to the ruling political party to go out there to a police station and get the most serious accusation written in the FIR. And they updated the FIR when they took out some people. They tried to make it less ridiculous. They tried to take some of the more ridiculous sections out. One of the more ridiculous sections included waging war on Pakistan or assaulting the president or the governor. Those kind of ridiculous things were taken out of the FIR, and some of the ridiculous names were taken out. Just because somebody was sitting there, he was also charged of sedition. So they tried to make it less ridiculous, but it's still pretty ridiculous thinking that Nawaz Sharif is speaking out against historical facts, is speaking out against the intervention of the military in the Pakistani politics, which is a historical fact. The world knows it. The military generals responsible for it have gone to the court and admitted to doing that. So it is not sedition if somebody is just talking about history, an actual history of Pakistan.
All right. Interesting point there. Now, Sharif has been summoned by the Islamabad High Court in a graft case, of course, as you know. How do you see things panning out in this front?
The way things work in the courts depends on the political scenario of Pakistan. Let's not forget, as soon as Nawaz Sharif was away for a whole year, Nawaz Sharif was telling the journalists and its supporters that, be brave. We have to be brave and we have to fight for democracy and the right to vote. And then he disappeared for one whole year. This is before some time ago. He had disappeared for 10 whole years. So Nawaz Sharif's, treatment in the courts depends on what he's saying outside the courts, and not just Nawaz Sharif. His younger brother, who is seen to be more closer to the military establishment, is now also, getting arrested. And his sons, his daughters are also under scrutiny and liable to get arrested. Cases are being registered against his whole family, his younger brother's family as well, the one closer to the military establishment these days. So whatever happens on the political scenario has a very direct and immediate bearing on what happens to the Sharif family. So if Nawaz Sharif continues and Nawaz Sharif is not, let off in any way, then Nawaz Sharif would face the music inside courts. And similarly, if the courts are deciding against Nawaz Sharif, then Nawaz Sharif's conduct will become more aggressive towards the establishment. This is what's been happening. So it's a tit for tat between two parties, one of them obviously much stronger than the other one.
Yes, of course. I was actually going to come to this. What will be the consequences if he fails to appear before the court before the 24th of November?
If Nawaz Sharif fails to appear before the court and the court is asking him to appear, he will be declared an absconder, which he kind of still is. And this is like a similar situation that former dictator General Pervez Musharraf is already in. He is a declared absconder in a treason case. So if Nawaz Sharif doesn't come, he'll be joining that league. However, President Pervez Musharraf, former dictator, can come back to the country anytime he wants because of the power dynamics. Nawaz Sharif, if he is a declared absconder, I think they've already taken out decades from his political career, would probably mean that Nawaz Sharif would be irrelevant in Pakistani politics because of his age, and it would take him too long to come back to the political scenario because he wouldn't be able to enter the country like it was before when Nawaz Sharif and Benazir Bhutto could not enter the country for a very long time.
Yes, I believe that in fact is a given, but I think what I'm trying to understand here is what will be the fallout of that on his party, and of course his daughter is also involved in this scenario. So what do you think will be the fallout of this on that?
Nawaz Sharif's current firebrand political acumen that he's just acquired is also seen in his daughter Maryam Nawaz. So when Maryam Nawaz delivers speeches, these speeches are more in liaison with what Nawaz Sharif's narrative is compared to his brother's narrative or the pro-establishment narrative. So Maryam Nawaz was also, by the way, taken away for a whole year, and or she kept herself away from politics for a whole year until the courts decided to summon them. So Maryam Nawaz now is also taking the same strategy and attacking people who attack democracy and fighting for the cause of democracy and the respect for vote, as the slogan says. And obviously they're not ready to accept a -1 formula that the military establishment usually gives to its opponents, that you can exist if you take out your own leader yourself. So they're fighting for the fact that Nawaz Sharif is still their leader, and his ideology of giving respect to the vote is still their strategy. Their main leadership, apart from his younger brother, is actually coming out and hitting out at anti-democratic forces itself. So Nawaz Sharif, when he was disqualified, chose another person to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and that person is still loyal, and his core team is still loyal to Nawaz Sharif. So it's not that once you take out Nawaz Sharif and physically make it impossible for him to contest for the Prime Minister, that you make him irrelevant. Other people from his party that he nominates are still very likely to become the future Prime Ministers of Pakistan, and him to have some power over the anti-democratic forces if he still continues to choose to fight against them. It hasn't happened in the past.
All right. You make some very interesting points there. Thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We will definitely be closely tracking this. Thank you.